Hi everyone, it's Rob Watson, the module leader for TECH1502 Introduction to Community Media. And this is an overview of the topics we'll be covering in the 18th lecture, which is entitled Social Action and Development. So the key idea behind this lecture is to kind of give you some advanced ideas that we'll be covering in the second year of the course. And looking at the way that community media is regarded as a vehicle for social change, but also a vehicle for community development, and something which can make a contribution to some of the pressing problems that we have as a society, within our politics and within our economics. So the idea is to think about how the principles of community media are different from mainstream media, and I think we've kind of well established that now. But also to think about the way that this is something which is of global interest, as the kind of globalized changes in our economy and society and information communication come about. So does our sense of regard for how we establish our communities and what we can do in terms of self-representation and participative democracy. So how is it that people kind of make their voice matter, and how are they heard? So there's a range of alternative viewpoints which mainstream media would never consider, but which community media is driven and has a key role to play in advocating and supporting. So the key is for this, I feel, is to think about the social problems that community media can contribute to, and the way that we can look at social issues and we can look at the relationships and the kind of ideas of social bonds that exist within communities, or that could be grown and nurtured within communities, and think about how this is kind of shaped, if you like, between the economic imperative of commercial production and the kind of social bonds that are different and which give us a kind of sense of continuity and identity, which goes beyond that of which is just something you can pay for, a transaction like swiping your card on a card reader in a shop. You know, our social life, our community engagement has got to be more than that kind of simple gesture of transaction. So we'll look at factors that impact on community, that community media can contribute to, such as health and well-being, community cohesion, as we discussed last week. We'll look at the way that the mainstream media kind of frames some of these debates and how it kind of promotes a sense of indignation and a sense of marginalisation for many people. In fact, there's a kind of, to such an extent that there's a demonisation of the poor. And in the age of big business, big corporate monolithic bureaucracies, that actually the idea of a marketplace itself is questionable, something which we might look at a range of views to kind of understand. And I'll draw on Michael Oakeshott, who was a conservative political thinker, philosopher, who thought that society can exist in different forms and patterns, some of which are sustainable and others which are not, because they're kind of artificial and they're imposed. So we'll look at the kind of the differences between them, and then we'll think how this might kind of emerge as a more organised form of political action and policy-making development in the form of what's called distributionism. So the idea that companies and businesses are small individual local family units which make up a network within the economy, rather than these big monolithic corporate institutions that we're dominated by today, who own everything and control everything. So we've got to think about how community media can contribute to a sense of sustainable development. You know, what are the kind of sustainable approaches that we need to look at in order to generate a sense of equitable distribution of resources? What makes a community resilient in those circumstances? How can we use technology and how can we relate to debates about globalization and localization and things like urbanization in order to produce a stronger sense of civic engagement? So we'll go through these in the lecture. As ever, I've produced the PowerPoint presentation with some clips and images, which I don't share, but the lecture notes will be available. In fact, they are available on the DMU Commons wiki. So if you go to wiki.our.dmu.ac.uk, search for the TECH1502 page and search for the lecture notes section, and they're available as a PDF from that section. The reading associated with this lecture this week is the Ellie Rennie book, Chapter 5, which is about development. I've not identified any viewing as yet, but I'll have a go at coming up with something which hopefully will kind of give us an insight into the practice of social community redevelopment and development. But otherwise, I'll see you at the lecture on Tuesday.